Apache Hadoop is an open-source software framework for storage and large data-scale processing of datasets on clusters of commodity hardware. It is designed to scale up from single servers to thousands of machines, each offering local computation and storage. Rather than rely on hardware to deliver high availability, the library itself is designed to detect and handle failures at the application layer, so delivering a highly available service on top of a cluster of computers, each of which may be prone to failures. Apache Hadoop official website. What is Apache Hadoop? Hadoop is an open-source software framework for distributed storage and distributed processing of large datasets. Open source means it is freely available and even we can change its source code as per our requirements. Apache Hadoop makes it possible to run applications on the system with thousands of commodity hardware nodes. Its distributed file system has the provision of rapid data transfer rates among nodes. It also allows the system to continue operating in case of node failure. What are the main components of Hadoop? Storage layer, HDFS. Batch processing engine, MapReduce. Resource management layer, YARN. HDFS, Hadoop Distributed File System, is the storage unit of Hadoop. It is responsible for storing different kinds of data as blocks in a distributed environment. It follows master and slave topology. Components of HDFS are name node and data node. MapReduce, for processing large data sets in parallel across a Hadoop cluster, Hadoop MapReduce framework is used. Data analysis uses a two-step map and reduces process. YARN, yet another resource negotiator, is the processing framework in Hadoop, which manages resources and provides an execution environment to the processes. Main components of YARN are Node Manager and Resource Manager. Why do we need Hadoop? Storage. Since data is very large, so storing such huge amount of data is very difficult. Security. Since the data is huge in size, keeping it secure is another challenge. Analytics. In big data, most of the time we are unaware of the kind of data we are dealing with. So analyzing that data is even more difficult. Data quality. In the case of big data, data is very messy, inconsistent and incomplete. Discovery. Using a powerful algorithm to find patterns and insights are very difficult. What are the four characteristics of big data? Volume. The volume represents the amount of data which is growing at an exponential rate that is in petabytes and exabytes. Velocity. Velocity refers to the rate at which data is growing, which is very fast. Today, yesterday's data are considered as old data. Nowadays, social media is a major contributor to the velocity of growing data. Variety. Variety refers to the heterogeneity of data types. In another word, the data which are gathered has a variety of formats like videos, audios, CSV, etc. So, these various formats represent the variety of data. Value. It is all well and good to have access to big data, but unless we can turn it into a value, it is useless. What are the modes in which Hadoop run? Local, standalone mode. Hadoop by default run in a single node, non-distributed mode, as a single Java process. Pseudo-distributed mode. Just like the standalone mode, Hadoop also runs on a single node in a pseudo-distributed mode. Fully distributed mode. In this mode, all daemons execute on separate nodes forming a multi-node cluster. Thus, it allows separate nodes for master and slave. Can you explain about the indexing process in HDFS? Indexing process in HDFS depends on the block's size. HDFS stores the last part of the data that further points to the address where the next part of the data chunk is stored. How many daemon processes run on a Hadoop cluster? Hadoop is comprised of 5 separate daemons. Each of these daemons runs in its own JVM. Following three daemons run on master nodes. Name node. This daemon stores and maintains the metadata for HDFS. The name node is the master server in Hadoop and manages the file system namespace and access to the files stored in the cluster. Secondary name node. Secondary name node isn't a redundant daemon for the name node but instead provides period checkpointing and housekeeping tasks. Job tracker. Each cluster will have a single job tracker that manages map-reduced jobs, distributes individual tasks to machines running the task tracker. Following two daemons run on each slave nodes. Data node stores actual HDFS data blocks. The data node manages the storage attached to a node, of which there can be multiple nodes in a cluster. Each node storing data will have a data node daemon running. Task tracker. It is responsible for instantiating and monitoring individual map and reduce tasks. That is, task tracker per data node performs the actual work. What happens to a name node that has no data? There does not exist any name node without data. If it is a name node, then it should have some sort of data in it. Can you explain Hadoop streaming? Hadoop distribution has a generic application programming interface for writing map and reduce jobs in any desired programming language like Python, Perl, Ruby, etc. This is referred to as Hadoop streaming. Users can create and run jobs with any kind of shell scripts or executable as the mapper or reducers. Can you define a block and block scanner in HDFS? Block. The minimum amount of data that can be read or written is generally referred to as a block in HDFS. The default size of a block in HDFS is 64 megabytes. Block scanner. Block scanner tracks the list of blocks present on a data node and verifies them to find any kind of checksum errors. Block scanners use a throttling mechanism to reserve disk bandwidth on the data node. Can you define a checkpoint? Checkpoint node keeps track of the latest checkpoint in a directory that has the same structure as that of name node's directory. Checkpoint node creates checkpoints for the namespace at regular intervals by downloading the edits and image file from the name node and merging it locally. The new image is then again updated back to the active name node. Can you explain commodity hardware? Commodity hardware refers to inexpensive systems that do not have high availability or high quality. Commodity hardware consists of RAM because there are specific services that need to be executed in RAM. Hadoop can be run on any commodity hardware and does not require any supercomputer or high-end hardware configuration to execute jobs. Can you explain heartbeat in HDFS? Heartbeat is referred to a signal used between a data node and name node, and between task tracker and job tracker. If the name node or job tracker does not respond to the signal, then it is considered there are some issues with data node or task tracker. What happens when a data node fails? When a data node fails, job tracker and name node detect the failure. On the failed node, all tasks are rescheduled. Name node replicates the user's data to another node. Can you explain text in format? In text input format, each line in the text file is a record. Value is the content of the line while key is the byte offset of the line. For instance, key, long writable, value, text. Can you define scoop in Hadoop? To transfer the data between relational database management, RDBMS, and Hadoop HDFS, a tool is used known as scoop. Using scoop, data can be transferred from RDMS like MySQL or Oracle into HDFS, as well as exporting data from HDFS file to RDBMS. What are the data components used by Hadoop? Data components used by Hadoop are Pig, Hive. Can you explain rack awareness? Rack awareness is the way in which the name node determines on how to place blocks based on the rack definitions. How to do map and reduce works. Name node takes the input and divide it into parts and assign them to data nodes. These data nodes process the tasks assigned to them and make a key value pair and return the intermediate output to the reducer. The reducer collects this key value pairs of all the data nodes and combines them and generates the final output. Can you explain combiner? The combiner is a mini-reduce process which operates only on data generated by a mapper. The combiner will receive as input all data emitted by the mapper instances on a given node. The output from the combiner is then sent to the reducers, instead of the output from the mappers. How many input splits will be made by Hadoop framework? Hadoop will make 5 splits as follows: 1 split for 64K files. 2 splits for 65 megabytes files. 2 splits for 127 megabytes files. Suppose Hadoop spawned 100 tasks for a job and one of the tasks failed. What will Hadoop do? It will restart the task again on some other task tracker, and only if the task fails more than 4, the default setting and can be changed, times will it kill the job. What are problems with small files and HDFS? HDFS is not good at handling a large number of small files. Because every file, directory, and a block in HDFS is represented as an object in the name node's memory, each of which occupies approx 150 bytes, so 10 million files, each using a block, would use about 3 gigabytes of memory. When we go for a billion files, the memory requirement in name node cannot be met. What does JPS command do? It gives the status of the daemons which run Hadoop cluster. It gives the output mentioning the status of name node, data node, secondary name node, job tracker and task tracker. How to restart name a node? Step 1. Click on stop all.sh and then click on start all.sh or. Step 2. Write sudo hdfs, press enter, su hdfs, press enter, /etc/init.d/ha, press enter, and then /etc/init.d/hadoop 0.20 name node start, press enter. What does /etc/init.d do? /etc/init.d specifies where daemons, services, are placed or to see the status of these daemons. It is very Linux specific, and nothing to do with Hadoop. What is the purpose of context object? The context object enables the mapper to interact with the rest of the Hadoop system. It includes configuration data for the job, as well as interfaces which allow it to emit output. What is the number of default partitioner in Hadoop? In Hadoop, the default partitioner is a hash partitioner. What is the use of record reader in Hadoop? In Hadoop, the record reader loads the data from its source and converts it into key value pairs suitable for reading by the mapper. What is the best way to copy files between HDFS clusters? The best way to copy files between HDFS clusters is by using multiple nodes and the dist command, so the workload is shared. Can you explain speculative execution? In Hadoop, during speculative execution, a certain number of duplicate tasks are launched. On different slave node, multiple copies of same map or reduced task can be executed using speculative execution. In simple words, if a particular drive is taking long time to complete a task, Hadoop will create a duplicate task on another disk. Disks that finish the task first are retained and disks that do not finish first are killed. What is the difference between an input split and HDFS block? The logical division of data is known as split while the physical division of data is known as HDFS block. How can native libraries be included in yarn jobs? There are two ways to include native libraries in yarn jobs. By setting the java.library.path on the command line, but in this case, there are chances that the native libraries might not be loaded correctly and there is the possibility of errors. The better option to include native libraries is to set the ld_library_path in their bash file. Can you explain Apache Base? Base is an open-source, multi-dimensional, distributed, scalable and NoSQL database written in Java. Base runs on top of HDFS, Hadoop distributed file system, and provides Bigtable, Google-like capabilities to Hadoop. It is designed to provide a fault-tolerant way of storing a large collection of sparse datasets. Base achieves high throughput and low latency by providing faster read-write access to huge datasets. Can you explain SERDA in Hive? Apache Hive is a data warehouse system built on top of Hadoop and is used for analyzing structured and semi-structured data developed by Facebook. Hive abstracts the complexity of Hadoop MapReduce. The SERDA interface allows you to instruct Hive about how a record should be processed. A SERDA is a combination of a serializer and a deserializer. Hive uses SERDA and file format to read and write the table's row. Can you explain val in base? Write-ahead log, WAL, is a file attached to every region server inside the distributed environment. The val stores the new data that hasn't been persisted or committed to the permanent storage. It is used in case of failure to recover the datasets. Can you explain Apache Spark? The answer to this question is, Apache Spark is a framework for real-time data analytics in a distributed computing environment. It executes in-memory computations to increase the speed of data processing. It is 100x faster than MapReduce for large-scale data processing by exploiting in-memory computations and other optimizations. Can you define UDF? If some functions are unavailable in built-in operators, we can programmatically create user-defined functions, UDF, to bring those functionalities using other languages like Java, Python, Ruby, etc. and embed it in script file. Can you explain SMB Join in Hive? In SMB Join in Hive, each mapper reads a bucket from the first table and the corresponding bucket from the second table, and then a merge sort join is performed. Sort merge bucket, SMB Join in the Hive is mainly used as there is no limit on file or partition or table join. SMB Join can best be used when the tables are large. In SMB Join the columns are bucketed and sorted using the join columns. All tables should have the same number of buckets in SMB Join. How can you connect an application if you run Hive as a server? When running Hive as a server, the application can be connected in one of the three ways. ODBC driver, this supports the ODBC protocol. JDBC driver, this supports the JDBC protocol. Thrift client, this client can be used to make calls to all Hive commands using a different programming language like PHP, Python, Java, C++, and Ruby. Is Yarn a replacement of Hadoop MapReduce? Yarn is not a replacement for Hadoop, but it is a more powerful and efficient technology that supports MapReduce. Can you explain record reader? A record reader uses the data within the boundaries created by the input split to generate key-value pairs. Each of the generated key-value pairs will be sent one by one to their mapper. Can you explain sequence file in Hadoop? Sequence file is used to store binary key-value pairs. Sequence files support splitting even when the data inside the file is compressed, which is not possible with a regular compressed file. You can either choose to perform a record-level compression in which the value of the key-value pair will be compressed. Or you can also choose at the block level where multiple records will be compressed together. What does the conference.setMapper class do? Conference.setMapper class sets the mapper class and all the stuff related to map jobs such as reading data and generating a key-value pair out of the mapper. How do you overwrite replication factor? There are few ways to do this. Look at the below illustration. Illustration. Hadoop FS setup W5R Hadoop test. Hadoop fstdfs.replication equals 5cp Hadoop test/test.csv Hadoop test/test_with_f5.csv. How do you do a file system check in HDFS? fsck command is used to do a file system check in HDFS. It is a very useful command to check the health of the file, block names and block locations. Illustration. HDFS fsck/d/Hadoop test files blocks locations. Is name a node also a commodity? No. Name a node can never be a commodity hardware because the entire HDFS rely on it. It is the single point of failure in HDFS. Name a node has to be a high availability machine. Can you define input split in Hadoop? When a Hadoop job is run, it splits input files into chunks and assign each split to a mapper to process. This is called input split. What is the difference between an input split and a block? Block is a physical division of data and does not take into account the logical boundary of records. Meaning you could have a record that started in one block and ends in another block. Whereas input split considers the logical boundaries of records as well. What is the difference between sort by and order by in Hive? Order by performs a total ordering of the query result set. This means that all the data is passed through a single reducer, which may take an unacceptably long time to execute for larger datasets. Sort by orders the data only within each reducer, thereby performing a local ordering, where each reducer's output will be sorted. You will not achieve a total ordering on the dataset. Better performance is traded for total ordering. In which directory Hadoop is installed? Cloudera and Apache have the same directory structure. Hadoop is installed in cd/use/lib/hadoop/. What are the port numbers of name a node, job tracker, and task tracker? The port number for name a node is 50070, for job tracker is 50030 and for task tracker is 50060.
Subscribe to our channel, Interview Gig. Visit our website for more articles and interview questions and answers. www.interviewgig.com. Like, share and comment. Don't forget to click the subscribe button. Click the bell button for latest updates.